All right, I'd like to welcome everyone to the League of Women Voters Candidates Forum. Being 9 o'clock, we'll get underway. We're going to start with the park board this morning, and it looks like we have 3 candidates that have attended. I want to welcome all the candidates and everyone that came to the forum today. The forum is sponsored by the League of Women Voters. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization that encourages informed and active participation in government, works to increase understanding of major public policy issues, and influences public policy through education and advocacy. We'd also like to thank City Hall for letting us use the City Commission chambers today, and all of the candidate forums will be rebroadcast on Fargo Channel 12. And as we get underway, each candidate will be given 2 minutes to do an introduction, and then 2 minutes to answer questions, and we'll be given 1 minute to wrap up. All right, so Mr. Magnus, if you would. Yep, and Carol will be timing for us, and she will be holding up cards.
Very nice, thank you.
Mr. Magnus, if you would like to start.
Can you hold up the rest of my words? Well, good morning. My name's Matt Magnus, and I am running for Park Board. And I want to thank the League of Women Voters organization for putting this together, because it's very helpful. And for that matter, thank the past and present Park Board members and Park Board staff that really do a good job. And I think the attractiveness of running for office is because of the fact that we have a great reputation as a park district, and I would like to continue to build upon that into the future. Myself, as far as a bit of a background, I'm a lifelong Fargo resident. Grew up here participating in all sorts of sports, and the Park Board was a key part of giving me that opportunity as a kid, so that was a really fun time to be able to participate in lots of different things, be it tennis, golf, hockey, flag football, whatever it might have been over the course of the years. As I grew, I married another lifelong Fargo resident. She's in the audience here, Kathy Magnus, Kathy Schultz it was. Her mother's here, Mary Nelson, a well-known Fargoite as well. And then a special guest, my mother, who was on the Fargo Park District, voted into office in 1978, was here. So thanks for being here. Appreciate that. As I look at myself, I have a professional background in technology and leadership in organizations, as well as strong participation across the spectrum of fitness, and I am interested in trying to lend those skills to the Fargo Park District in order to help us continue to make great decisions and build upon what we're doing. And beyond that, I guess I have a couple of key things that I think are important as we go into the next 4-year term, and most important of that probably being that we're going to see a change in the executive director role, very likely of Roger Gress leaving the organization. And to prepare for, as well as make a selection in order to pick a new leader for that organization, I think is really critical. I'd specifically like to lend my experience to being able to help us through that transition in order to keep our park district strong and growing.
All right, thank you. Mr. Waltz?
Hi there. My name is Terry Waltz, and I've lived in Fargo here since I came here from Langdon, North Dakota when I graduated from high school and came down here to college. So it's been about 27 years I've lived here. My wife Sarah and I have 3 lovely children. Brianna's 21, our son Trey is 14, and our son Jensen is 10. We thoroughly enjoy living in Fargo, and Fargo's got to be one of the best cities in the country to live in, with all the progressiveness going on here, the clean city and everything. What I love best about Fargo is that you can go out and we still can knock on our neighbor's door and get a carton of milk or whatever you need, because everyone knows everybody. Although we are growing and we are going to be bigger, and the park board will be expanding. What I've done just recently with the park board is we refurbished a couple baseball fields down at Spider Park, Brunsdale. That's down by west of the Bowler, about 5 blocks. I spearheaded last summer. I said, hey, we need to get some championship fields here for these kids. And so what I did is I went into Mr. Gress's office. I'd never met Roger before. And I said, Mr. Gress, we need to go ahead and get some fields for these kids, and let's get Fargo on the map here and get some economic development going. He said, well, Terry, you're going to run into some hurdles. And I said, absolutely. I said, that's going to happen. And I said, I know that. I'm a guy that stands up and takes charge. So what I did was I got permission, and we got the fields going, and it's 100% privately donated money for these 2 fields. We'll have over $300,000 into these fields when we get done, But now we will be able to have post-championship tournaments, bring teams in from other states, regions, and we'll be able to use that. So I'm a very progressive guy. I'm a guy that steps up and does things. I'm like at the church. You have like 4 people that always want to go ahead and jump up and do something. I'm one of those guys that will go ahead and do it. If there's something to get done, I'll go ahead and do it. Again, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for inviting us here, and have a great day.
Thank you. Mr. Flaxbarth.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the Red River Valley League of Women Voters for hosting the Candidates Forum today and the opportunity to be here and speak this morning as well. My name is Rick Flaxbarth, and my wife and I, Lori, live in North Fargo. And we have a son who lives in Bismarck. He's a CPA with I. Bailey. And we have a daughter, Angela, who is a what we call a super senior at UND with a double major in elementary ed and early childhood care. Little background about myself. I was in broadcasting for 27 years, most of that spent at KFGO here in Fargo. And in 2010, I became a commercial realtor with Cityscapes Development. Over the years, I've been involved in many sports activities here in Fargo and have used many of the park facilities as these gentlemen have as well, and I feel that experience will be very helpful for me to be a good park district commissioner. So, as example, I was a Babe Ruth baseball coach for 6 years, along with coaching travel baseball teams. I know sometimes it's hard just to find a place to practice on those fields. So, I've coached FM athletic football for 3 years. I coached FM soccer for 3 years, so I know what it's like to be out at the Pepsi complex on a Saturday morning at 30 degrees and a 40-mile-an-hour wind. So not a lot of fun, but it's you're out there and you're coaching anyway. I coached travel basketball teams over the years, and I was Fargo North Club baseball president 2006 and 2007. I'm also one of the original members of the Metro Tournament Committee, which is a committee that hosts all of the state and regional tournaments, high school tournaments at the Fargo Dome and other area venues as well. So as a family, we're very familiar with the Park District programs. My daughters worked for the Park District for the last 3 years at Playtown and also in the maintenance department. And on a lighter note, I'll just say this, that I'm a golfer, but not a good one. So if you're at any of the golf courses, you find a golf ball in the rough or in the water, it's mine, okay? So it's an honor to be here today. I appreciate the invite, and I look forward to serving the residents of Fargo as a Fargo Park District Commissioner. Thank you.
Thank you. So we will begin with the questions, and we'll start, Mr. Waltz, we'll have you start with this question, and then each question we'll have a different person that starts. So our first question from the audience, what will you do to make the city of Fargo more walker or biker friendly?
Well, I think we have to keep working with the developers that are developing the land out there. We have a great relationship right now when they do develop the new land that we go in there before it's developed, and we set up the parks and the walking trails right there. Up in North Fargo there, we have a little glitch right behind the VA system here that I think the Park District is working hard to get that resolved, and we'll go ahead and get that, hopefully when the flood buyouts are done here, we'll be able to get the trails going all the way through there so we can have connectivity all the way up to, basically all the way up to Cass County 20 up there. So the big thing is working with the developers before it's all developed, get the parks put in there, get the bike paths and the walking paths put in there before anything's put up, so people can't say, not in my backyard, we already have it set up and it's ready to go.
Mr. Flaxbarth?
And well, as a commercial realtor, I get involved in a lot of that, especially in development for new areas. And of course, the growth, much of it is in southwest Fargo. We see a lot of that. So it's basically what I would call connecting the dots. And by saying connecting the dots, that's making sure that all of the trails, all of the bike paths connect to one another. Terry referred to the one up near the VA hospital. We have one up in North Fargo, up near Riverwood, that we have the same problem. You can't get from one to the other. So as these areas are developed, we have to make sure that we're smart about it, we utilize it, and work early with the developers to make sure that the Park District, not just the parks, but also the walking paths, bike paths, are all integrated into their program and into their layout.
Mr. Magnus?
I also would say that, clearly new development and the pace of Fargo's development right now is one of those key areas of trying to make sure that we paint a picture. And maybe even compared to today, I think we should be painting a stronger vision of the role of parks and fitness and the Parks and Recreation and Park District participation in that, meaning that today I don't think we really have much of a strong vision that is communicated. I think we have very strong staff and a strong park board in terms of how people have their own personal desires of how Parks and Rec plays a role in our community and throughout it. In this case, I think we have to paint a stronger vision and be more forward-thinking in terms of how developers are able to lay out the fringes of town. But in town, it's one of those key challenges. How do we get right-of-way? How do we try and get collaboration in order to, within the existing community, broaden and make safe and enjoyable the idea of walking and biking around town?
So we did have a kind of a follow-up question to that, and that is, what are the plans for parks, bike trails, et cetera, for South Fargo at around 62nd Avenue South? Mr. Flaxbarth, if you would like to start with that.
62nd Avenue South, I'm assuming on the east side of I-29?
It doesn't specify.
Okay, all right. And that's a great point, because that's, again, just a huge growth area. There's several projects, there's several large projects that will be developed in the next couple of years in that area. You have to make sure that you're working early on with the developers so that they have that layout, they have that design built in. It's really hard to go back after the fact and just say, just on simple things like sidewalks, let alone bike paths and building those parks and green spaces. And so as developers, they're trying to make sure that they do what they're supposed to do, and that's, simple water retention ponds. But that's, again, just part of the process. But down in 62nd Avenue, I would say that area is destined for some growth, and you're going to see a lot of expansion down in that area probably within the next 2 to 3 years. So I would say that, there's the time now to make sure that those bike paths are put into existence, and they're put into the plan early so that, to make sure that they get done.
Mr. Magnus.
I think this is one of those examples where the current park staff members, Roger and his staff, have built particularly strong collaboration with the city. And the city planning department really carries a lot of the initial messaging as developers meet with them. So on the topic of that future growth, I think that collaboration is really key to making it go smoothly in the future. And I have no doubt that we're probably doing what we've done in the past and trying to shape those with developers in a way where it would be friendly for continuous bike paths and trails. And I'd like a stronger, similar to the Milwaukee Trail, I'd like a stronger presence of green space around those trails at the same time, if it were at all possible. I think that's really been a strong benefit to the south side of town and really connected a lot of the park's facilities so that people don't just travel to a single location, they travel from one to another around the community. And that's really a nice forward-looking view of the city. But the city planning department collaboration, in my mind, is so key that that's one of those things about a change in leadership. As Roger would potentially move on to retirement or be leaving that post in terms of the leadership of the organization. He sets the tone for that collaboration, I think, today. Without that strong voice of collaboration with the city, with the school systems maybe having a bit more pressure relative to budgets and other things, these are collaboration points that have to be kept really strong in order for those things to continue to mesh together to give a real solution for the citizens of Fargo.
All right, thank you. Mr. Waltz?
Down by 62nd Avenue South down there, a lot of that is already developed. From 58th to about 64th, you've got the roundabouts there. And what is developed, obviously we're going to have to go through. There's a big power line that goes through that we probably could build stuff there. As for what's still open, again, we would need to go ahead, as the other gentleman stated, we'd have to go ahead and get the developers on board where we can go. But right now what's existing out there, the Silverleaf and those areas out there, we could go ahead and get the bike paths built into there. There's still enough open room out there that we, as the city planners, would have to meet with them and figure out where exactly we can put these for the best use for the people. But if people are familiar with that down there, that power line goes all the way out to University Drive and cuts Kitty Corner all the way through there. So if we had to, we could use that. It's kind of like Osgood Golf Course down there. When they put that in, that was right by the power lines. That same power line goes the whole way through there. If worse came to worse, and that's what we had to do, it's still a great structure. Is it ideal? It's not. You have some of the noise there, but obviously it works fine with Osgood, so that would be things we'd do. As for the new development, we'd have to go ahead and, like I said, we'd have to work with the developers and get that set up before anything was developed out there so that we have it set up what we want for the people and what the people want from us.
All right, thank you. So we'll come back to Mr. Magnus. The next question from the audience is, what is the annual budget of the Fargo Park Board, and do you see that as adequate, too much, or not enough?
Well, the budget that is in place today is roughly a $14 million budget for the entire organization, and I think that that is still a growing number, although the mill levy assignment in terms of the taxing authority has been decreasing slightly. Of course, the tax base of Fargo is growing at the same time. So I think the dollars seem adequate in terms of my dialogue with existing parks leaders. They, by and large, are saying that they feel as though their advanced planning and their ability to have access to funds is helping them accomplish projects. On the other hand, I guess my concern is that our city growth rate is accelerating, and I'm not sure that our dollars are going to keep pace at the same time as how we'd like decision-making to happen. So that doesn't mean that I'd necessarily think that that budget has to grow, but I also think that we may have to be more bold in terms of painting the vision of future needs so that we can set plans in place for budget dollars to be reprioritized. Today, we end up oftentimes with a budget where we have a surplus at the end of the year. Not a sizable one, but a small surplus of some kind. And that does go into and get carried over for the next year for long-range plans. But in my mind, I'd love to see us be making a case for bigger projects that are actually helping not only the citizens of Fargo, but helping draw economic activity of the citizens of Fargo as part of that. And co-investment from external groups, Terry mentioned it, from private dollars, that's something that we've gotten better and better at, and I think we can continue to work hand in glove with other associations, sports associations, other community associations that can actually help elevate our investment in Parks and Rec.
Thank you. Mr. Waltz.
The budget's actually $16 million, but they project to hold it at $14 million, as Matt said. So hopefully, it'll help out obviously this year a lot with the flood dollars, but they're not going to take that out of it. That's always going to be a part of that. We have to get private dollars invested. We have many big businesses here that they want to help us out. They want to do things, but they want to see that we're committed also. So I'm a huge advocate of getting, as Matt had mentioned earlier, kids involved in programs. It's a known fact that obesity is becoming a huge thing with young kids. Well, the problem is they're playing Xbox at home. They're not getting out. When I was young, it's like my folks said, get outside. You went to the neighborhood and you had 15 guys and you'd go throw a baseball or play football or, anything, hockey, whatever it was. So we need to get kids more involved in it. The mill levy itself, I think that is adequate right now. It's actually going to go down a hair. The money that they have budgeted, the only thing is we're stretched a little thin. It's like every corporate America. You get stretched too thin, you just can't keep doing everything you're doing. I think that's going to be up to the voters of Fargo to go ahead and say if they want more money put into their parks and recreation, they'll let us know. Trust me, if they're not happy with it, they're going to tell us. I think that we definitely need to get private money into it, and we need to get, for any facilities we're going to build or do with, we have to get private money involved with it. We can't do it off the budget we have. The budget we have is to keep what we have and to grow with it, but we can't grow at the pace that Fargo's growing right now with the population. So I'm all for what we have. You have a budget. It's like I tell my kids, there's not a money tree in the backyard. Here's how much you have. If you're going to go to the store, this is what you get to spend. So it's the same thing with the park board. We have what we have, and that's what we have to make work, and there might have to be some cuts here. We can't do a brand new project that we want to do if we don't have the money.
Thank you. Mr. Flaxbarth.
Well, as Matt and Terry pointed out, budget trying to hold it there at that 14 million mark, but we also have about $5 million set aside in, I don't want to call it a slush fund, but there is money that's set aside at $5 million for emergency purposes. Now, one, of course, that we don't have to worry about this year, thankfully, is flooding. So we're not having to spend money, we're not having to spend resources, manpower to save Edgewood and Mickelson Field and so on. So by that, we actually have some money that we can put back into the system work back into helping, either refurbish current parks or developers, working with developers and talking about the expansion of future parks. So I think we look at, is it enough? Is it adequate? Right now it is. And the only way we can look at expansion, we don't want to talk about tax increases. And I think Terry pointed it out, that the best way to do that is to look at corporate dollars. On the Metro Tournament Committee, that's what we do. We work almost solely with working with corporate sponsorships to get the money to host these state tournaments that we put on at the Fargo Dome. So in that, let's hope that we can continue to find those corporate partners like the Pepsi complex, the soccer complex up in North Fargo, and we can utilize corporate dollars to help strengthen not just existing programs, but we can also look at developing new programs.
All right, thank you. So, Mr. Waltz, we'll start the next question with you. Are there enough programs that are designed to reach out to multicultural populations or lower income or at-risk young populations, or what are your ideas to do that?
Are there enough programs? We have a lot of programs that we have already in stock, and we have a lot of the programs that people aren't aware of that we do have scholarship funds for them. Like if you go to the baseball or if you go to the hockey organizations, soccer organizations, they all do have money there for the kids. I'll never forget, a kid came up to me. I've coached baseball, football, track, basketball, you name it, hockey. I've done it all. And a kid came up to me and he said his little brother couldn't play baseball. And I said, well, what do you mean? He said, well, we don't have enough money. He said, well, give me your brother's name. And I said, you're not playing either. And he practiced with this. I had no idea he wasn't playing. He said, well, we don't have the money to do it. And I went into, at that time, they were at Babe Ruth there. We went in and they had scholarship money for those kids to play. So a lot of people are unaware of that a lot of the organizations do have the scholarships for it. Now we have to find out with our culture changing like that and people coming in, we have to find out what did you do? Did you play cricket? What did you do, or what would you like to see done? I mean, we have to be open-minded and go ahead and say, what are you people looking for? You're residents of Fargo, North Dakota. We're your stewards of your money. How would you like us to spend it? Obviously, everyone that requests money, we can't go, okay, here you go, hand out money. It's just like any business. When you go and ask for money for donations, you're not going to get money from everybody. Obviously, you have to show them what you're going to use it for, and if it's going to help out the kids, obviously we're going to shoot for that, what we can do. But again, like I said, we have to find out, what are they looking for? What exactly do you want the money for? The programs we have, what don't we have that you're looking for? I mean, obviously we can't. The problem is with the Fargo Park District, you can't have 500,000 different programs because everything's different. But if we can sure make it work, we're going to make it work.
All right, thank you, Mr. Flaxbarth.
Jerry brings up a great point. There are scholarship dollars available. When I was coaching Babe Ruth, I know several of my kids that ended up having to do that their parents weren't able to pay just the simple entry fees. And so you go to Babe Ruth, you go to those people that are able to help you find those dollars so that they can participate in that. But in the programs, it's just, I think a lot of it is just getting out there and getting that information, making sure that we're reaching all of those students, all of those kids throughout the entire community, whether it be on social media, whether it be through the schools. We have to find ways to communicate. And nowadays, of course, social media seems to be one of the key ways of doing that, but there are certainly other ways to get that accomplished as well. So making sure that we reach everyone on simple things like, I think we have Kite Day coming up May 5th here. That's fun for everyone. That's something that everyone can participate in. And it's something very simple and easy. But again, making sure that information gets out there so that everyone understands that that's something that they can go out and get outside and do. And so I think the most important thing here is to be informed, making sure that we get out and we inform everyone of all the programs we have going. I don't think a lot of the city of Fargo would really believe how much the Fargo Park District has for programs going on a regular basis.
Thank you, Mr. Magnus.
I think it is a matter of awareness to some degree that we do offer a lot of assistance. We do offer a variety of programs, even if we stretch that community to people that have disabilities or other activities. We have some adapted leagues and participative programs for people to participate in. So it's something that I think the broad spectrum of anyone who sort of is feeling disadvantaged as far as their access to programs. But I think we aren't very, somehow we aren't very effective, at least as effective as we probably should be, for getting that information to be more available, and that there isn't as much broad, understanding of the variety of programs that are available. And I think partly because there's a bit of a apprehension on the side of the current park board staff and an apprehension of the board that dollars that are spent on marketing in order to inform people are dollars that maybe should have been spent on a program, and it's a trade-out question of, are we comfortable prioritizing dollars so that we can actually communicate better and have maybe stronger participation, stronger awareness throughout the community. That's a balancing act that I think is difficult for the board and the staff to do, but I do think the board has to set the tone that, hey, informing people these are available and working hard to listen and get feedback from the community, relative to that is something that we have to do a better job of over time. And, not everyone knows a park board member. This isn't just that, they'd run into them on the street anymore, and that's the way to roll this up. We need to use probably more aggressive tools like surveying bigger slices of the community, or trying to actually just have more community outreach in a way of understanding the community as well as informing the community.
All right, thank you. So the next question will start with Mr. Flaxbarth, and it is, how will the proposed residential development at the Cardinal Munch site affect park facilities at Edwidge Park and golf site?
Well, I've been watching that very closely. I've been part of some of that process, and there's some changes there. And I guess in talking to some of the residents that live up in that area, there certainly is that strong, what we refer to as the NIMBYs, not in my backyard. They're used to having this big open green space back there for Cardinal Munch, and they don't want to lose it. So they're looking at all the increased traffic and all the things that go with construction of 60-some homes. And so where do we find that balance? And that's probably the biggest key, is where do you find the balance? And so perhaps looking at, building in some buffer zones between the current residents and the new residential area. The Park District has done a great job. If you haven't seen it, they do have some green space set aside within that acreage, and it will be fantastic. There is going to be some changes to the roadway. There's going to be some changes on the entrance into the golf course there. They're going to have to raise that roadway up to use it basically as a dike, as a levee against any flood water. But that also helps the current neighborhood. So they have to look at it that there are some pluses coming their way for them by doing that. So I think that the Park District, from what I've seen of the plans done by Chose and his investment people in that, they've done a great job of working with the Park District and making sure that there is some open green space up there, and we don't lose that space up in North Fargo.
And thank you, Mr. Magnus.
I think it's an interesting development going into a location that's already largely built out. But there's, of course, been a facility there. It just so happens that the facility that's there now has had a dramatic decrease in traffic and activity over the course of time. So the threat, or the perceived threat of it being sort of now a high traffic area, I think is a valid concern to the residents. But I think from a park's perspective, it's less about whether the development is a good thing or not. It has to do more adapting and accommodating how the current parks environment and properties in that area are still functioning well and serving the community well, and living up to past promises relative to people if they lived on a area that's already parks land. To have that change and go away, feels like you're being slighted a bit. So what I think is that the parks have collaborated very nicely with the developers in the concept of improving the road, widening the roadway to make it more of a public thoroughfare. That's all, I think very much an appropriate and supportive way that the Park District has worked with the developer. I don't think that the local residents are going to like this, depending on almost any of the options here. And yet, I think the park board still has an obligation to the developer to be able to try and collaborate, maintain this. And of course, the parks is getting some additional land out of the equation, where there's more practice facility and things for the golf course. And in that area, the golf course has lost some of the property, had encroachment from the river due to the slumping of the land and things. So it's a real nice add for the park's facilities to be able to have a little bit more room and improve that facility.
Thank you. Mr. Waltz?
As good stewards of the land up there, we would be in charge if we were to buy that. That listing on that land, and Rick would know more than this, I think is about $3.6 million. How would you, as tax-paying citizens of Fargo, you just asked me about the budget here a little bit ago, how would you feel if I decided, hey, as the park board members, if the three of us are on the park board and we said, let's go spend $3.6 million in this land to go ahead and put in a park and stuff like that? It's funny because some friends of mine asked me the other night, they said, why don't you move some holes over there for golf? And I said, yeah, I looked at that and I researched it. If we move a hole from over at Edgewood there, we could probably get, I just kind of figured in my head, maybe 6 to 8 holes over there. It costs about $200,000 to $300,000 a hole to build a whole new fairway, green and everything. Are people going to be happy with us if we decide to go ahead and do that? I understand 100% with the neighbors that are there, something coming in. This was a beautiful area up there. I get it. The road behind there is going to be built up as a dike protection to keep that water out of there. I understand 100%. I sympathize with the folks that live there. Unfortunately, whenever you have a green space, unfortunately, and it's not owned by you, there's a chance that something like that could happen. I'm all for buying it for the park district, but again, we're going to go after it with private dollars. We can't go after it as stewards of the land. We can't go and put that kind of money into one development up there. That we have to have a vision for what it's going to be. Where are we going to put? What are we going to put in there? If it's going to be great for the community, obviously we could do that. But I got to find out from you as the stewards that I'm holding the money for here, what do you want me to do? That's what we have to do. And if we're going to make the decisions at this point, we can't spend that kind of money just to buy that out.
All right, thank you. So we'll go back. The next question will start with Mr. Magnus. Are the park facilities fairly distributed over all of Fargo?
Well, I think that you'd probably have to say no, they are not, but that's because we've never really taken an approach of having a mandate of a certain sort of development and a certain set aside for parks. And I'm not really proposing that we would. It seems like our collaboration with Fargo City Planning and our ask of developers and the attractiveness of parks and trails being part of any development is adequately serving Fargo in terms of new growth areas. So in new growth areas, I think we're actually getting pretty decent access and fairly consistent set aside and availability of parks property. I would love to potentially see that be a little more aggressive, but on the other hand, I think it's adequate. I think the places where we are now feeling like the community is maybe more underserved is that in areas where the existing city is already pretty dense, it is hard to improve and change and adapt on the boundaries of those parks. So you're sort of lost. You're locked a bit within the footprint of the acreage and the properties that already exist in the city. And I think that always leaves people in the existing neighborhoods feeling as though maybe they aren't getting their portion as much of the investment and the growth opportunity in Fargo. The traditional neighborhoods and the traditional set aside for a park was maybe 1 or 2 lots on a block, and it wasn't nearly the size of some of the parks that we think of today, or doesn't have maybe some of the character that some of the parks land we have today does. So in my mind, we should be trying to grow that percentage of set aside for parks as we go forward. But I think the disadvantaged part of the town is where we either have real dense apartment buildings or where we have real dense existing homes. And those areas I don't think have as much access. Those are people that end up traveling more and farther in order to try and get access to parks.
Thank you. Mr. Waltz.
No, they're not fairly distributed because of the fact that when North Fargo obviously is the older part of our town, when that was built, we didn't have the big community that we do, and they didn't have, like Matt said, they only put aside so much acreage at that time. The new developments down south, where they're moving there and stuff, yes, when you work with the developers, they're giving so many acres for every 60 or 80 acres of land. If you're going with a half a quarter or a quarter, they give us so many acres out of that. The park board was very, very smart in their visionary look when they bought a quarter of land out in Brunel Park, it's called. It's right southwest of Walmart there on 52nd Avenue South. And people don't realize at that time that was bought about 15 years ago. And I think they paid about $3,000 an acre for that. And that quarter of land out there that's a huge, huge economic build right there. So for future growth, we have that. Rutten Park over there right along I-29, that's about out on 81st Avenue. Another good visionary deal. They bought that. The only problem is that's in the floodplain right now. Until we get everything figured out with the flood, we don't know what they're going to do with that. To go ahead and move on for the new developments, absolutely. We can go ahead and work with those and get those set up. But as for the old, no. We just, unfortunately, we have to go in after the fact and try and build it out, and you don't always get that. Like in North Broadway there, the park up there, it's right off of I think it's 37th Avenue. You go up by the townhouses, by the treatment plant up there, and there's a nice green space up there. But is it perfect? No, it's not. You're not right next door to the neighbors. The park up off of 40th Avenue up there. Is it perfect? No, but the problem is we had to come in after the fact. You don't have section after section of land that's undeveloped right now to build. You have to fit a little, square peg in a circle hole up there, unfortunately, to try and make it work.
All right, thank you, Mr. Flaxbarth.
Just to fill in a little bit what Terry was talking about there, that Brunel acreage was 160 acres bought in 1999 at about $3,000 an acre by the Fargo Park District. I just recently sold the 89 acres to the east of that at $23,000 an acre. So in 14 years, you see what type of inflation has done to simple farmland on the south side of Fargo. Are we fairly distributed across Fargo? No, we are not. And you look back, a lot of the early parks were just basically parks that were put in around the elementary schools, whether it be Roosevelt, Hawthorne, Claire Barton. A lot of these schools, that was the only green space that was built into the inner city. So if there's the ability to do something, it would be to continue to look at ways to add more green space in what I call the inner part of the middle, the center part of Fargo. We've got a project just across the street here. When we get the 2nd Street dike put in, what a great time to look at putting some green space into downtown Fargo. And one of the things we've talked about is having a skating rink in the wintertime downtown. A great thing for not just having people to come downtown and do that, but also for the residents that live here and live in downtown Fargo and have the ability to just walk over and put on a pair of skates and skate in their own outdoor rink downtown. So we need to look at things like that where we can develop green space within the city and be able to take advantage of that and build open space, green space into projects that we're currently looking at.
All right, thank you. So it is time to wrap up here. So each candidate will get 1 minute to give a final statement. And Mr. Waltz, we will start with you.
All right, again, I want to thank you, the League of Women Voters, for inviting us here today, and all of you for participating and asking great questions. I want to continue to make Fargo the best city to live in America. Our quality of life is second to none here in Fargo, and I'm a firm believer in that. Like I said, I know Matt, Rick, and he was in my hometown. It's just a small world. In North Dakota, you can run into people everywhere, It's just fantastic. Over the years, I've been involved with, I've either coached, managed, pretty much every youth baseball program there is. My kids, myself, my wife, and I use Dike West for sledding. We use cross-country skiing at Edgewood. We use Edgewood for golfing, Rose Creek. We use pretty much all the bike paths throughout the town. I'd appreciate the opportunity to further help the Fargo Park District as a member, being a board member, to help out with our future growth and help everything else. I have a philosophy in life. If you never ask, the answer is always no. So ask, and you may get it. So I ask for your vote today on June 16th or June 10th.
All right, thank you, Mr. Flaxbarth.
While I was out getting signatures on my petitions, I had someone ask me, so what's your beef? You know, what, you got an axe to grind? And I had to say, no, I don't. You know, I really don't. What I want to make sure of, though, is that the citizens, young and old, have the opportunity to participate in the activities, you know, that are hosted by the Park District and are able to use all of the Park District facilities. You know, Fargo is growing, absolutely, and there's a need to expand our parks. So as we look forward, we should be able to make sure that we take care of the parks that we currently have as well. You know, our parks and our playgrounds should always be a fun and safe place for everyone to go and enjoy. So whether it be a small neighborhood park or, you know, say Kite Day at Lindenwood, or this afternoon there's the garden party down at Rowe Farm, it's making sure that we have a wide variety of activities, and that's for the entire family, and I think that's very, very important. I think that Roger Gress and his staff, they do a fantastic job, and as Park District Commissioner, I want to make sure that the citizens of Fargo continue to be proud of their Park District. So with that, once again, I'd like to thank the Red River Valley League of Women Voters for this opportunity, and would like to, again, ask you for your support and vote on June 10th.
Thank you. Mr. Magnus.
I really am very fond of the Park District facilities and programming that we have today. Proud of that history we have within the community, and I think it really enhances the fabric of the community in order to make sure to continue to build on that. I'd like our vision for how we want parks to play a role in the community to be stronger. I'd like us to be more vocal, actually, about how we have residents understand that vision, but not just the vision, understand the programming and accessibility and things as well. And that's something that I would really like to try and grow more. I do think we have a very good foundation upon which to build today. I'd like to lend my experience, whether it's you know, helping from experience within the corporate world, helping with leadership that I've had within nonprofits, whether it's participation in sports groups, whether it's you know, helping consolidate hockey organizations so that they can be more efficient and effective. These are things that I've done my whole career in terms of my business life, and I'd love to be able to lend that to the Park Board and help us make great decisions going forward for the City of Fargo.
All right. Thank you. And thank you to the candidates and for everyone that attended the candidates forum. We'll take about a 5-minute break here, and then we will start with the City Commission forum.